All right, today I'm going to Davion Pooler, and today we're going to explore and understand why video games are so essential to being implemented into our school curriculums in order for better education. With that today, I think I want to go ahead and start us off with the main notion of what are video games. Now, of course, we have our classic traditional school games like tic-tac-toe, cross, applesauce, all that, jumping jacks even. And the realm of video games have always been an advancement that's been tagging along with just how we've been as a civilization. Within day-to-day life, most individuals go on apps like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or many other forms of social media. Within these kinds of algorithms, there's also lies something that's complacent, and that's usually an time-wasting aspect that's not necessarily doom-scrolling, but it's gaming. Within that effect, games do employ a more stranger hemisphere of what you'd want to do with video games. With that, I mean, what makes a video game educational, what helps us learn, and what is the concept of learning and how it's implemented through gaming. Something like this can be obviously imported via any medium, but video games have been a strict medium that have seen a lot of different complications over policy, legislature, and other forms of media. Within that, I think we need to understand what gaming is. Gaming is just a fun pastime, entertainment, usually more recreational based, something that allows us to alleviate ourselves and could be a passion for one another. Usually things like Sudoku, blackjack, poker, all that jazz, they're all games, but within those, I also want to look into the context of educational purposes. With that, I want us to understand what is learning. Now, learning's a bunch of different accumulative skills. Of course, you have your reading, your writing, understanding, graphing, all that good little jazzy jazz that we're traditionally taught. And I feel games are not given the credit they deserve for what they actually do for us in day-to-day life and overall help us become more cohesive individuals. With that, back to the earlier statement, I'm going to go and tell you that a Soviet-led individual by the name of Mr. Lev Voylisky, I'm sorry for the mispronunciation of his name, but the individual actually gave us a concept considered the proximity of learning, or the zone of proximal development. It's an area where individuals can learn and adapt and really intimately integrate what they gain from video games into their daily lives or overall situations. To most individuals, this is just considered good game design. Now, when developers talk about stuff like that, it's usually more or less story, more driven behind the actual schematics and basis of what the game's designed for. And within that, educational games like surgical games like Surgeon Simulator, Tractor Simulator, Psychiatrist Simulators, these games help us develop better and sharper skills. With a lot of studies being conducted by multiple different traditional universities, with ones from, oh, sorry about that, the University of Rochester having a landmark one, being Bover and Sean Green, sorry about that. They said that they found in their study that, excuse me, about that. They said within their studies that video games were better enveloped and gave these individuals sharper visual skills and more of a whole cohesive understanding of their surroundings. A skill that's not traditionally taught within classrooms was in games like Call of Duty and Monster Hunter. I mean, these are games that are critically acclaimed, but they're not really seen in that light, viewed for the main aspect of what they do. Within that, I think we can really try to alleviate and understand that video games play more of an essential role within education. Games that are truly more impactful to education, of course, play something more into it. Like I stated earlier, surgical games are used by 37% of the actual practicing force to sharpen and better their skills. I mean, these are free to use applications that anybody could utilize that literal professionals and masters and savants of their fields are implementing day to day to better their skills. And to that regard, I think we can truly understand how video games implement and can help us understand and get better cohesive understanding of what we can do in our day-to-day lives. And with that, I really was on this notion that Education and video games aren't some long-spaned, winded argument, but they're more intertwined and more compounded together than we ever may believe within our day and age. As we come from VRs that allow us to feel a more intimate relationship with our environment, to classical controller video games that allow us to hone and train skills we never would have learned in a traditional setting, I think with that notion, we can really understand how to implement video games in an educational sense can be broad and yet such a useful endeavor. And with that, I leave us with that. It's so we can understand and revisualize how contemporary games with our time being could be implemented as a whole within the educational system. And with that, I leave you. My name is Davion Pooler, and I hope we at least gained something from this today.